what I love about my friends is that 70 years ago, we would have all been lobotomized. It's funny, isn't it? And it's funny because it's true. And that's kind of humor, sort of feminist, dark, sarcastic humor that I really find funny. Then it goes on to say that she sent it to a group chat that she had ironically named Female Hysteria.
Right.
Which again is really funny. Mm-hmm. Kind of making both these things are making fun of real, true things that women have gone through and struggled through. And she says all the women in this chat room are women who have been diagnosed with various mental illnesses, and they felt like they could make fun of it because they had disordered minds.
Yes.
And when she sent the tweet, she wrote LMAO, laughing my ass off, same. And then she started kind of feeling uneasy about it.
Yes.
Because she kind of felt like a lot of her really brilliant, strong, feminist female friends had kind of started giving up on fighting and doing things, and instead were just sitting on the sidelines sort of tweeting sarcastic stuff and not really doing anything anymore.
I feel I'm kind of in the middle of this whole thing because I do battle a lot of things in the universe with sarcasm. And so but I still feel that I'm also an activist about a lot of things. And I remember talking to some of my friends, and I said, you are not allowed to become exhausted or weary. You can't just say it's too hard and then you stop. And I feel like a lot of this is when I started tapping out of what I considered the self-care mentality, where things in life are too bad and they hurt too much, so I'm going to stop reading the paper because, I just can't, and it's so triggering. And so we started isolating ourselves from things that made us feel bad or we felt like we could not affect any sort of change in. And so I'm more on no, things are supposed to hurt sometimes, and if you don't like it, then you get to go do something about it. You can't just sit there and go, we're not doing things.
The thing that happens to me, I think, and she brings this up, is the whole getting sort of when people come on and they're so sincerely tweeting that they're a girl boss or girl runs the world, or you know what I mean, and they're still out there being like, I'm a girl boss lady running the world, hashtag. I see friends who do that and I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me with this. Quit hashtagging your boss lady. Quit girl bossing. I could die.
Quit girl bossing.
You know what I mean? And I love I'm always like, burn down the patriarchy, but I'm doing it in a sarcastic way. I'm not really going to burn down the patriarchy. We know it's not going to work, but I get to the point where I just I can't even, my other friends who are girl bossing it and hashtagging it up and putting up posters on their walls. I'm just like,
they think you're polluting their boss ladiness.
Can you stop? I just look at it and I'm eye rolling as I'm scrolling. I can't look at another post from this person because I'm going to,
but I
literally die. So that's the point. And it's not their fault. I'm just so
over it.
I'm so over it, and I have all the time in the world for 70 years ago we would have been lobotomized. Yes. I've got a lot more room for that.
So Sam, do you live in the world of sarcasm, or do you live in the world of boss ladiness?
Absolutely live in the world of sarcasm, and absolutely am so over hashtag girl boss, hashtag lady boss.
I mean, we have this podcast. We're not out there podcasting. We're lady bossing our podcast. Hashtag girl boss, hashtag lady boss, hashtag empowerment, hashtag.
Right.
I mean, I guess.
But I do consider myself very empowering.
Of course you are. Yeah. But I do think that this brings up
my boss lady
thing.
Podcast, Fred Shannan.
I keep my boss lady in my heart.
Right.
But I do think that this points to a big problem of people and women especially are mentally exhausted right now because the world is particularly crazy. It's crazier than it's ever been. So what's the solution to
sarcastic tweets are the solution.
Yes.
Well, and I just
sarcastic group chats.
And I know that women are exhausted, but I kind of feel like the people who I hear the most naysaying and exhaustion from are I call them my white girl liberal friends. And so my white girl liberal friends, and the reason
I'm raising my hand.
Exactly. Because Judy, I appreciate you putting your hand up because I have given this lecture to Judy. Yeah. And I'm like, Judy, this is your privilege talking. You're not allowed to be tired because you just got started telling no. Like started, I've been in a variety of struggles, I feel like, longer. So I'm accustomed to going, well, there's a wall, got to keep climbing over it.
No, you're
right. But I do feel like we have
this article says that. That's part of the length of this. It's always the white privilege, you've got us, you've started it, and these are the ones who do it in the TV shows, and these are the ones who do it in real life. No, I am that.
And it's sorry to talk over you. It's also like that time that I thought we were going to solve racism in one segment.
And
I understand now.
I'm like, continue.
No,
continue,
it's like
Samantha.
I almost thought it wasn't fair, and I thought that I should be a feminist and do a few things, and then it didn't work out for me. So now
I'm back to stop.
Now I get to just tap out and be tired and roll into the retirement years.
Right, and that's the part where I'm going.
That's definitely, you nailed it.
You're right, and that part finds, and I have tried to as much as possible, like, come back and go, I will do my best to continue to bring you into the struggle.
Right.
It's just not my fault that you were not accustomed to struggling in the same way that the rest of it was.
By it.
Exactly. And so I'm like, I get it. You got your way quicker. But there are lots of historical constructs where we sit there and we go, it was historically, Caucasian women who got something first, and then we all of a sudden acted like they were gone. And that's what happened with inclusion. And I'm not saying that there still aren't struggles. Yep. I'm just saying that once we get a couple of inroads for that particular group in population, a lot of times the efforts begin to throttle back because they get a little bit of what they want, and then they get tired, and then we got to wait for another 15 years.
I think it's a muscle that they haven't been working that much, right?
I think that's why this article was really interesting.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, she went on and on and on, but you don't really have to go much past the first two paragraphs to relate and get the gist of what has happened. Oh, I guess that's why I wanted to talk about it.
So, Judy, I'm just going to let you know, I'm going to get you some more coconut water so that you can feel invigorated. Because I understand that you're a little tired, so we'll replenish your electrolytes.
Thank you.
And then we can all get back to the struggle.
No, you're right. You're right. It is. It's not a valid way to go about behaving.
I'm not saying you can't occasionally sprinkle in sarcasm. I think that humor, especially for so many of us, does help us continue along. Like being able to go, this is the part where we have to feel so, because if we can't somehow process it through humor as well, we will become so angry that the hashtag burn, the patriarchy. We will actually be setting fires in the community if we can't.
Sometimes I just say smash the patriarchy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hug the patriarchy.
Or whatever it is.
Get the patriarchy a snuggie. I'm just saying there should be a variety of things that we do to the patriarchy. The patriarchy is still problematic. There's just other ways that we can address it.
You're right.
What I'm saying. So we're going to be.
Good.
You're going. And Judy, we talk about you all the time, and I just appreciate. You and I talk about these kind of things often, and you are very reasonable about these things, and sometimes, just like a lot of our friends, need a reminder that we're like, the struggle is still real. So so you take a little breather, get some spa treatments, and then you can come back and the struggle will still be here. Is all I'm saying. The struggle will be here, and you're allowed to tap back into the struggle after your snail mask dries out.
That's
so it's all
funny.
good. Is that okay?
Maybe this article was kind of just like an awareness moment.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's a good wake-up call. It's a good wake-up call. So we'll do that.
We're all okay with that.
I just have to say that I was so excited, and I look back at when we were first talking about this particular segment.
Yeah.
When we were going to include Don't Crime as a regular feature, and Samantha was like, I have this great idea. We're like, Samantha, you have so many great ideas. But when Samantha was like, we should really include Don't Crime on a regular basis, you are the most correct that you have ever been in our relationship together, Samantha, because Don't Crime has become so joyous. So what do we have now for Don't Crime?
All right.
I never look at the Don't Crime articles before.
Okay.
So
I read them and I giggle.
I like to come in blind.
Judy, you buckle up.
Okay.
Go. I'm going to read from the story as I usually do because it always does a really effective enough job of telling the story than anything I could parlay. So, a Florida man not surprisingly, was arrested recently after allegedly hiding his meth stash in a peculiar place, his belly button. Martin Skelly, a 41-year-old from St. Petersburg, was taken into custody after investigators caught him with a 28-gauge needle at a McDonald's in Clearwater and took him in on methamphetamine possession. Before he was transported for booking, authorities asked Skelly if he had any other contraband in his possession, warning him he could face additional charges if anything illegal was discovered while he was in jail. He denied having anything else, but during intake, a sheriff's deputy, quote, discovered a small bag of crystal powder substance wedged deep within his belly button cavity. The substance tested positive for meth, officials said. Skelly, a 380-pound, 5-foot man, reportedly told an officer after the drugs were found that he was, quote, just being dumb and not thinking. Agree.
Now look.
How much meth can you put in your belly button?
Well,
I mean, it's not very big.
You have to take into account his size. And so he had a little bit more room in that particular cavity than I think some of us would. Mm-hmm. That's all. So enough that it increased the charges.
Yes. It's such a great question. And I had the same one, which led me to jump into the rabbit hole and look into, I don't know, crimes involving belly buttons a little bit more deeply. And it is a place where people frequently attempt to hide contraband items.
Yeah, I would see that. Because it seems like if of the orifices, here's the thing, of the orifices, it is,
I gotta feel my belly button
it's just
right
big
now.
enough and it's easily accessible. Like some of the more not to be graphic orifices, people would see you attempting to access that orifices, right?
I just felt my belly button. I could probably fit like 2 Cheerios in there.
That's a good point, Shannon.
Yeah.
As orifices go, I think the belly button is a little more subtle, perhaps.
Correct, because other orifices, one, you've heard about them. So, I mean, this would seem, I would think, because look, let's be real talk. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that even when you were doing daily hygiene, you have to remind yourself, hey, maybe I should clean out the navel, right?
True,
Don't you have to go every once in a while, go get a Q-tip, remember the hydrogen peroxide. It's something that I have, when I am telling my son, and oh, by the way, that's a place that you forget to remind people to clean out. So maybe they'd expect people to forget to search it.
It's not a top-of-mind orifice.
Correct. Especially, we've seen even all of the stories in all the Narcos episodes about all the other orifici. So I think that some of them you would think would be more standard search places. So maybe think that you would jump to the navel as slightly non-standard, and maybe they forget.
At least in Florida.
Judy, you just look just baffled.
I just still can't. I mean, maybe he had used his belly button as a hiding place before, so it was more hollowed out. Maybe he had worked on making it like a little pouch of a button.
It's like a Kanga pouch.
Yeah,
it was. It definitely, if you're using it as a hiding spot, it definitely is an innie, not an outie. So that ruins it for some of the people in the society. Yeah. If it was an outie, I'm just
grossed out about it.
Oh, well, I can't think of a variety of the story that wouldn't be gross. I can't.
Cute.
Like anything that you are hiding in something that is your person is going to be in a gross place. That's just it.
Is true.
Like if he had said, even if we pick something slightly less gross, like in between his toes or in his armpit, we still would be going, or his ear, we still be like,
oh my God,
gross.
I
right?
Can't. See? Oh my God.
All of the hiding spots.
Could you imagine hiding drugs in your ear?
No, I can't imagine hiding drugs
I can't. No.
Anywhere in my body.
No. But again, this comes back to so many of our don't crime stories. There are other things to do, and they still elect to crime, which normally brings us back to what would we do instead? So, I mean, if we are now, and we can't go all the way. Instead, we would not do meth. That's first of all. We know that. So we have to take that out. So if you had to select a creative orifice, is there something that we could use instead?
I wonder if, since I have, sort of shoulder-length hair, if there's maybe a space underneath my hair.
Okay, all right, at the nape. At the nape. Okay,
nape.
that would work.
I mean, did any of you guys ever watch Broad City?
Yes.
I did not.
Well, you guys know what are the 2 girls in Broad City? What are their names?
Ilana and Abby.
Ilana used to always put her weed in her vajayjay.
Oh.
In the show. Like all the time, even if she was just going around town.
Marinated.
Okay. Well, I figure she had it in a plastic bag.
Of course.
But I mean, in that show in Broad City, she was always
so
high.
You can't do that because that's been in a television show, so you can't no longer use that one. That's a giant red X.
I don't even know if she was worried that something was going to happen to her. That's just where she kept it.
Because some people don't have time for a purse.
That was like a running thing on that show, wasn't that? Yeah. It was like her thing.
And then I do remember that there was a young lady that was in a story that I read, and I believe she was also from Florida, and she used to put them under her bosom.